My mother-in-law called me worthless, then needed my signature to stay out of jail. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. You're worthless. I always said my son deserved better. The words didn't just hang in the air. They cut through me, slicing skin and bone and pride. My mother-in-law's voice, sharp as glass, echoed around the dinner table, bouncing off the stunned faces of my husband, her cousins, even our friends who had joined for the holidays. Laughter died mid-breath. Forks froze over plates. I felt the blood drain from my face. I forced a smile, swallowing my reply. We'd been through this before. Her passive-aggressive jabs, her icy, helpful suggestions, the constant reminders that I was never good enough for her boy. But never so public. Never so deliberate. My husband, Alex, reached under the table and squeezed my hand, but I pulled away. This wasn't just embarrassment. It was humiliation, delivered with a silver spoon. She twisted the knife, voice syrupy sweet. I mean, look at this mess. You can't even host dinner without burning the bread. What can you do, really? Her friends chuckled, nervous, unsure if it was a joke or a warning. That night, I cried alone in the bathroom, the sound of her laughter still ringing in my ears. Alex tried to comfort me, but his words were empty. He never defended me, never stood up to her. I started to wonder if he ever would. Weeks passed, the holidays faded, but her words lingered like a bruise. She spread rumors about my laziness, told family I was wasting Alex's potential. Little by little, people pulled away. Invites dried up. Even my own sister-in-law started avoiding me. But then, months later, I got a call. My mother-in-law, voice trembling, begging for my help. I need your signature, she whispered. If you don't help, I could go to jail. For a moment, I felt nothing. Then a cold, hard resolve. She who called me worthless was about to discover just how much power I really had. Ask ChatGPT. I let her words replay in my head as I stood by the window, phone pressed to my ear. The arrogance in her voice was gone, replaced by panic and desperation. Please, she pleaded, you're the only one who can do this. You have to sign the affidavit. The business, my freedom, it all depends on you. My mind flashed to every ruined holiday, every time she'd turned Alex against me with a raised eyebrow and a whisper. She'd spent years poisoning my reputation, making me the outsider in my own family. Now she needed me to save her? What happened? I asked, keeping my voice cold, clinical. She danced around the truth, but it spilled out. Fraud investigation, forged documents, shady business partners finally under scrutiny. If I would sign a statement that she was innocent, that I'd witnessed her honesty, the lawyers could buy her time, maybe even get the charges dropped. Alex heard the last part of the call and paled. You don't have to do this, he said, but I saw the old fear in his eyes, the fear of choosing between us. I wanted to laugh. All these years she'd called me weak, useless, invisible. Now, she couldn't save herself without me. I'll think about it, I said, and hung up. That night, I lay awake, every slight burning like a fresh wound. I remembered birthdays ignored, gifts returned unopened, family photos with me cropped out. I remembered the way she'd smile at Alex, then glare at me like I was the stain she could never scrub away. In the morning, a messenger arrived, an envelope fat with legal papers, my name scrawled on the front. Inside, documents to sign, a trembling handwritten note. Please, I know I was wrong. I need you. Alex watched me read, his jaw tight. Are you going to help her? He whispered. I looked him in the eye. I'm not sure she deserves my mercy. The papers sat on the kitchen counter, their official seals catching the morning light. I stared at them over my coffee, 100 emotions warring inside me. Hurt, anger, a dark satisfaction at how the tables had turned. My phone buzzed with messages from Alex's family. Some begging, some threatening, all desperate for me to do the right thing. Not one apology. Not one word about the years of humiliation. Alex tried to broker peace. She's scared, that's all. She knows she went too far. Just, please don't make this worse. I looked at him, really looked. How he still wanted his mother's love, even now, even after all she'd done to us. My mind ran over every family dinner where I'd been ignored, every time she'd turned my mistakes into dinner conversation, every joke at my expense. I remembered the Christmas Eve she told Alex's relatives that I'd never be a real part of the family, The way she rolled her eyes if I spoke, the chilly hugs, the subtle threats. Years of being called worthless, until my worth was the only thing that could save her. I picked up the phone and called my best friend, Mia. She listened, silent, then finally said, "You don't owe her a thing. But if you do this, do it on your terms. Make her acknowledge what she's done." That night, I texted my mother-in-law. "If you want my help, we talk face to face. No lawyers. No family. Just you and me." She replied instantly. "Tomorrow. My house. Please, don't tell Alex." I ended the call with my heart pounding. For the first time in years, she would have to look me in the eyes and ask the person she'd tried to destroy to be her only hope. Her house was immaculate, every surface polished to a shine, but I saw the tension in the tight way she opened the door. She led me into the living room, where expensive candles flickered and family photos lined the mantel. I wondered if any of them included me. I doubted it. She perched on the edge of the couch, clutching a silk handkerchief. Gone was the haughty queen of family dinners. In her place was a woman trying to hide her fear beneath practiced poise. "Thank you for coming," she whispered, as if the words cost her pain. I took the chair opposite, not offering a smile. "Let's not pretend this is anything but what it is. You want my help. You need it." She nodded, eyes darting to the papers in my bag. "I know I've been difficult, but this is life or death for me. I'll lose everything. Please, I'm begging." I let the silence stretch, watched her squirm. "You called me worthless for years. You made sure I never felt at home here. Why should I save you now?" Her face crumpled, but the apology didn't come easily. I was wrong. I was afraid of losing Alex. I thought if I made you look bad, he'd need me more. But I see now, I see what it's cost me. I'm sorry. Please." There it was, regret, mingled with desperation. Was it real? Or just fear of consequences? "Sign the statement," she said, voice breaking, "and I'll do anything. I'll tell the family I was wrong. I'll apologize. Publicly." I studied her, searching for the woman who had once made my life hell. Now she was powerless, at my mercy. I stood. "If you want my forgiveness, it's on my terms. I want the truth, all of it, and I want everyone to hear it." Her lips parted in shock, and then she nodded, defeated. But as I left, a thought chilled me. What secrets would she be willing to spill, if it meant saving herself? That evening, I called Alex and told him everything. "She wants my signature, but I want her confession, publicly, in front of the whole family." He hesitated, torn between loyalty and exhaustion. "If it means peace, do it. But don't trust her. She's always had an angle." The next day, I arranged the meeting. My mother-in-law tried to wriggle out, suggesting a private talk, a written apology, anything to avoid the shame. I stood my ground. Everyone, or no signature. Finally, she agreed. Saturday afternoon, the family gathered in her pristine living room. They came with suspicion, confusion, some even with thinly veiled contempt for me. My mother-in-law's hands shook as she addressed them. I owe all of you the truth." She confessed, first in fragments, then in a flood. How she'd spread lies about me, sabotaged dinners, whispered to Alex's cousins that I was using him. How she'd manipulated birthdays, holidays, every milestone, all to keep Alex close and me on the outside. Her voice broke when she admitted to orchestrating a family vote to cut me off after our first big fight. The room was silent as her words hung in the air. I watched the shock on faces that had turned away from me for years. Then came the hardest part. "I called you worthless," she said, facing me fully. "But the truth is, I was afraid you'd take my son. I'm sorry." I felt a weight lift, but also the cold knowledge that the family's opinion could shift with the wind. A few relatives muttered apologies. Others looked away, faces flushed. Afterward, in the kitchen, she pressed the papers into my hand. "Please," she whispered. "Help me now." I stared at the forms, the pen trembling between my fingers. But just as I was about to sign, a voice at the door snapped. "You shouldn't trust her. She's not done lying yet." Everyone turned toward the doorway. Alex's uncle, one of the few relatives who'd ever shown me genuine kindness, stood with a folder in his hand, his face drawn and pale. "I couldn't stay quiet anymore," he said, eyes fixed on my mother-in-law. "You asked me to cover for you, but it's gone too far." My mother-in-law's face drained of color. "What are you doing?" she whispered, voice quivering. He stepped inside, holding out the folder. You weren't just moving money around for the business, were you? He looked at the room, at me, at Alex, at every stunned face. You were siphoning funds from the family trust. You forged signatures, mine included, and you told everyone it was her idea. His hand pointed to me. A gasp rippled through the room. I felt dizzy. My whole body trembled as I pieced together the last year. Every awkward glance, every concerned phone call from the family, every time someone seemed to suspect me, but never said why. I didn't, my mother-in-law stammered. I only did what I had to. I thought, if I made her look guilty, no one would notice what I was really doing. Alex's uncle turned to me. You don't owe her anything. If you sign, you're protecting someone who would throw you under the bus to save herself. Tears slid down my mother-in-law's cheeks. I'm begging you, please, don't let them put me in jail. I was desperate. I stared at the folder. Proof of her betrayal, of her crimes, against me, against her own family. The pen hovered in my hand. Suddenly, the decision wasn't just about Mercy, but about whether I'd ever let myself be her victim again. I looked around the kitchen, at Alex, at his uncle, at the faces of people who had believed the worst of me without ever asking for my side. For the first time, they saw the truth. My mother-in-law trembled, tears streaking her perfect makeup. She'd built her kingdom on lies and manipulation, and now she was the one pleading for forgiveness. Alex put a hand on my shoulder. Whatever you decide, I'll back you up. His voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed a storm of confusion, pain, and maybe, finally, understanding. I looked at the forms again, then at the folder in the uncle's hand. I won't sign anything until I know exactly what you did, I said to her. You made me an outcast in my own marriage. You almost ruined my life. You need to tell everyone what you've done. She crumpled, nodding, voice barely a whisper. I stole from the trust. I needed the money. I never meant for it to go this far. I lied to everyone. I blamed you because I knew they'd believe me. The room erupted in whispers, outrage, disappointment. Her mask had finally shattered, and the truth was ugly. The uncle stepped forward. I'm taking this evidence to the authorities. You can't keep running from the truth. Alex's mother sobbed, clutching my arm. Please, please, one last chance. I'll do anything. For a moment, I felt a surge of the old anger, the urge to let her fall, to watch her reap every consequence she'd sown. But then I saw the broken woman before me, stripped of every ounce of power. I'll think about it, I said, voice cold. But inside I knew. The balance had shifted forever, and it was finally my choice. Whether to grant mercy or see justice done. The house emptied slowly, some family members silent and pale, others furious at the depth of betrayal. Only Alex and I stayed behind as his uncle left for the police station, folder clutched tight. My mother-in-law sat slumped on the sofa, ruined, staring at nothing. Alex sat next to me, quiet for a long time. I never saw her like this before, he admitted. But I should have. I'm sorry I didn't believe you. The apology was genuine, a thread of something healing in the wreckage. My phone vibrated, a message from Mia. You did the right thing. Don't let her guilt you now. I watched my mother-in-law, now so small in her grief, and remembered the endless ways she'd tried to break me. The ruined birthdays, the whispered accusations, the way she'd convinced everyone, even Alex, that I wasn't to be trusted. But now, she was the one begging, stripped of her armor. I'll do anything, she whispered. Testify against the partners. Give back every cent. Just don't let them put me in prison. Please, don't ruin my life the way I tried to ruin yours. The irony burned. She finally understood the price of humiliation and fear. That night, I lay awake, wrestling with old wounds and the pull of revenge. I could have the last word, watch her be punished, finally validated. Or I could let her make amends and maybe, just maybe, start to heal the damage. In the morning, I called the lawyer. If she's willing to confess everything, to the police and the whole family, and pay restitution, maybe I can sign a character reference. But on my terms. No lies. No excuses. He agreed. The ball was in my court. But before the meeting could be arranged, a police car pulled up outside. Everything was about to change, and my decision suddenly mattered more than ever. Red and blue lights splashed across the living room as the police car idled outside. My mother-in-law shot upright, panic flaring in her eyes. You said you'd think about it. Please, you can't let them take me. A knock at the door sent her to pieces. hands shaking so badly she couldn't stand. Alex answered, letting in 2 officers and the family lawyer. The lawyer's expression was grim. They have enough evidence to make an arrest tonight. Unless there's a formal statement or agreement in place, she's going to be booked. I could feel every gaze on me. Alex, the officers, my mother-in-law collapsed and weeping at my feet. The last embers of her pride were gone. The woman who had called me worthless was begging not just for freedom, but for mercy she'd never offered anyone else. The lawyer handed me a document, an affidavit, a plea for leniency. If you sign, the court will consider her confession and restitution. She'll likely avoid prison, but her name, her reputation, those are gone. I held the pen, hand steady this time. You'll tell the police everything. No more secrets. No blaming anyone else. She nodded, tears streaking her face. I swear. Alex's hand found mine. Whatever happens now, I'm with you, he whispered. The room held its breath as I signed my name. My mother-in-law sobbed, clutching my hand like a lifeline. For the first time, I saw her as human, deeply flawed, terrified, undone by her own greed and pride. The officers led her outside. The house was silent, save for the sound of her crying fading into the night. But as the door closed, I wondered, had I chosen mercy, or had I simply let the cycle begin again? And what would forgiveness cost me in the end? The house felt impossibly quiet once the police car disappeared. I slumped into a chair, exhaustion rolling over me in waves. Alex hovered, unsure. Was he relieved, ashamed, proud of me, or all at once? I honestly didn't know how I felt myself. Family members began texting. Some were furious, accusing me of betrayal, of tearing the family apart. Others sent hesitant apologies, admitting they'd never really believed the lies, but were too afraid to speak up. I ignored most of the messages, determined not to let anyone else dictate my worth. Alex's uncle called from the police station. She kept her word, confessed everything. She'll pay restitution, testify against her partners. The DA is dropping jail time for her full cooperation. He paused. It's over. You did the right thing. I thanked him, but it didn't feel like victory, just survival. When I went to bed, I found a note on my pillow from Alex. I'm sorry for every time I let her treat you that way. I know it's late, but I'll spend the rest of my life making it right. The next morning, a news article broke. Prominent local matriarch avoids jail in fraud scandal. Family testimony saves her. The public humiliation would haunt her forever. She called me once more, voice raw. Thank you. I won't forget what you did for me. I told her, don't thank me. Just change. For your own sake. As the headlines faded, I began to reclaim the spaces she'd poisoned, hosting friends for dinner, redecorating rooms, inviting laughter back into the house. But healing was messy. Some wounds lingered. Forgiveness was a choice I'd make again and again, even when it felt impossible. And just when I thought the story was over, a letter arrived, this time addressed to me alone. Inside, a secret even Alex didn't know. The letter was handwritten, its envelope shaky with hurried pen strokes. My name stared up at me. No address, no sender, just a quiet thread on cream paper. My hands trembled as I unfolded it, the scent of my mother-in-law's perfume unmistakable. I know I have no right to ask you for anything ever again. But before this is over, you need to know what I did, and what I'm still hiding. I read on, breath catching. She described an old business partner, a man who'd gone to jail years ago, and how she'd helped cover up the source of his laundered funds. There's money, still hidden, that no one but me knows about. If I confess this, everyone loses. Your name is on some of the documents. I put you there to protect myself. I am so sorry. My heart pounded. If the authorities ever dug deeper, I could become collateral damage. All these years, she'd called me worthless, only to make me the ultimate scapegoat. I called the family lawyer, voice tight with panic. He advised me to bring the letter in, not say a word to anyone else. We can protect you, he promised, but this may not be over. That night, I sat with Alex and confessed everything. His face was stricken. She involved you? You could go down for this. I nodded. It's not just her freedom at stake. It's mine too. Alex took my hands. We'll face this together. You're not alone anymore. But as I stared out the window, the truth felt like poison in my veins. I'd given mercy to the woman who'd tried to ruin me, and she'd left one final trap in my name. Was there any end to her betrayal? Or would her secrets haunt me forever? Sleep eluded me that night. I replayed every conversation, every stilted family dinner, searching for the moment I'd lost control of my own life. I'd thought the nightmare was over, but now the stakes were higher than ever. My name, my freedom, all tangled up in her greed. The next morning, I met the lawyer at his office, the letter clutched tight. He skimmed its contents, lips pressed in a thin line. "We'll need to get ahead of this," he said, already snapping photos of the letter for the case file. "Don't contact her. Don't mention a word to the family. We'll approach the DA ourselves and explain how your name was used without your consent. If you cooperate, there's a good chance you'll be protected." It sounded like hope, but it felt like another test. At home, Alex hovered anxiously. "Do you think she planned this from the start?" I shrugged, bitterness sharpening my words. "She always saw me as expendable, but I won't be her victim again." That day, detectives arrived for an interview. I laid out everything. How she'd forged my name, the money, the threats, even the letter. The process was humiliating and exhausting, dredging up every wound I tried to heal. But this time, I wasn't ashamed. I told the truth, every ugly detail. News of the deeper fraud spread quickly. The family erupted in chaos, calls, accusations, blame hurled in every direction. Some tried to drag me down with her, but I refused to be silent. As I left the precinct, the lead detective stopped me. "You did the right thing. You might have saved yourself and others from a much bigger mess." Walking home, I felt lighter, but also deeply alone. In freeing myself from her grasp, I'd severed the last threads tying me to the family I'd once desperately wanted to belong to. But maybe, at last, I was truly free. The fallout was swift and brutal. My mother-in-law's latest confession sent shockwaves through the entire family. The authorities seized her accounts, and the story made local news again, this time with my name attached. For days, my phone buzzed with messages, some angry, some apologetic, some just wanting gossip. I ignored them all, clinging to the advice from my lawyer and the DA. Alex stood by me, fierce and protective. He cut off anyone who tried to blame me, making it clear I was as much a victim as anyone. For the first time, I saw him choose me, fully, openly, with no hesitation. But the pain lingered. My reputation, once stained by years of her sabotage, now felt raw and exposed in the harsh light of truth. Even so, I noticed something shifting. Neighbors offered shy smiles at the grocery store, an old friend left flowers at my door, a cousin called to apologize for ever doubting me. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law sat in custody, her power broken. She reached out through her lawyer, begging for forgiveness, for one more chance, for mercy I'd already given and she'd wasted. I refused to visit, sent only a simple note. "You set this in motion. I hope you finally understand what you've done." One morning, I found a small envelope slipped under my door. Inside, a single Polaroid photo from years before, showing me at the family's first Christmas together, laughter in my eyes. On the back, in Alex's handwriting, "You belong. Not because of them, because you survived." The road to healing was still long, but I was done being a pawn in anyone else's story. For the first time, I was the one rewriting the ending. And this time, I wouldn't let anyone take my worth away. Rebuilding came in fits and starts. I dove into work, rediscovering passions I'd buried under years of trying to please people who'd never accept me. Alex and I went to counseling. Real conversations, painful truths, apologies on both sides. We began, slowly, to build something honest. No more secrets. No more letting anyone else define our happiness. I hosted friends for dinner, filling the house with warmth and laughter for the first time in ages. Mia toasted to survival and second chances, and we all laughed, but my eyes stung with gratitude. Some old relatives reached out, humbled and tentative. Some vanished from my life for good. I realized I was better off without their poison. A letter arrived from my mother-in-law's cell. She apologized, truly, heartbreakingly, owning every lie, every wound. She wrote, "I ruined you to keep my own secrets. I see now I ruined myself, too. Please, if you can't forgive me, just forget me. Start fresh." I read the letter, let the pain surface, and then let it go. I wouldn't forget, but I wouldn't carry her shame anymore. On a bright Saturday, Alex and I stood in the backyard. "Let's build something that's ours," he said quietly. I nodded, smiling for real this time. That night, I looked at the photo Alex had left me, the one where I still believed in family. I realized I still did, but I'd build it on my terms, with people who chose me as much as I chose them. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the kitchen. The phone rang with a new job offer. Hope felt real. I had lost so much, but I had found myself. And I would never again let anyone make me believe I was worthless. As weeks passed, the chaos settled into a quiet, unfamiliar peace. I donated the last reminders of my mother-in-law, her gifts, her notes, her photo frames, to charity. It felt like clearing space for a new life. Alex and I took a trip, just the two of us. No family, no obligations, just us learning how to trust and laugh again. At work, I was promoted for the first time in years. Colleagues stopped seeing me as a victim and started seeing the strength I'd earned the hard way. I volunteered at a shelter, listening to women who'd survived their own storms. I told them, "You're not alone. You get to write the rest of your story." Alex's uncle visited one afternoon. "You did what none of us had the courage to do," he said quietly. "Don't let anyone dim that light." A new holiday season approached. This time, I hosted. The table was smaller, but every seat was filled with people who cared, people who listened, people who brought joy instead of judgment. In the evenings, I sometimes reread my mother-in-law's final letter. There was sadness there, but not regret. I realized forgiveness was never about letting her off the hook. It was about setting myself free. One last time, I stood in front of the mirror and whispered, "You are not worthless. You never were." Sunlight streamed into my new life, and I finally believed it. Because after everything, I had found my own value, and no one could ever take that away again.